Should be an amazing series. In the top left side, we're looking at the main base of the Finnish phenom himself, representing ENS Esports. It is Serral.
In the bottom right is the red Terran, known for being teamless, still teamless. He is ByuN.
And it's two Hellions followed up by nothing but Widow Mines. There is a medevac on the way too, so not obviously Widow Mines with Trading Claws, but kind of a funny opening here. He will get the armory, so these mines are going to get cloaked. And well, if you like Widow Mines, I have the feeling we're going to see a lot of them here.
Yeah, finally. Felt like we were really anticipating it for Maru, and he just never did. A couple towards the last game, sure, but not as a build. Now we get it as a build. Absolutely. He's going to swap back into Hellion production, so maybe even an armory Hellbat attack later on too. But this is going to be scouted, at least the armory will be. Did you actually get sight on how many Widow Mines there were? The overload timing's a bit awkward.
I'm not sure. I mean, we don't see any spore crawlers yet, which gives me the idea that perhaps he did not. I mean, these mines are going to be hit, and as soon as this armory finishes up, the first mine may actually go down before it fires. The second one will not. On burrowing is so risky beyond. He loses it. I mean, that makes Serral's life a little bit easier. There's no spore crawler in the main, so once this mine is burrowed, it's going to stick around for a little while.
Hellions seem to... Oh, last minute split. The Hellions are also distracting him for just a hot second. Now they're going to be picked up in the medevac that was just transporting the Widow Mine. So this is kind of a cool use. They just like run through one direction, come back the other way. And I'm not sure Serral was anticipating this, but the Lings at least buy him a couple extra seconds.
Yeah, but the mines are going to fire again, though.
Exactly.
Yeah, the spore crawler is not up quick enough. Now the Hellions morph into Hellbats. This is a very cool opening coming out of ByuN. Serral was still wondering, or still kept the Widow Mines in the back of his mind. And in the end, he handles this in a pretty decent manner, I'd say. A lot of drones being sent back into the main base. I love the opening of ByuN, even if it didn't do that much. This kind of sets the pace immediately.
I can absolutely expect any other Zerg, honestly, even Raynor, messing up at least one thing there. It seemed inevitable with the Widow Mines having cloak that they would get another shot that would accidentally get, a couple banelings or a queen would get really injured, something along those lines. But instead, nothing so much. An auto turret comes down for harassment, and I just really wasn't expecting that. And the other was Serral, but he pulls once again fast enough to not pop up the worker kill count. So one went down. I mean, this is... I really think... I'm just expecting something to stop being so good for Serral, and then he's still doing fine. He's losing lings.
Serral loves his baneling drops in this matchup. He's been doing it more and more, and there is no missile turret in the main base. There is now a spotting depot, and there's a missile turret finishing up at the third, so I think the main is what we want to go for. I'm going to take a look at ByuN's vision to see if he's paying attention to this or not. And we'll keep a close eye on it. ByuN is mostly focused on, I think, being aggressive. He sees the drop a lot, but I don't know if he's really actually acknowledged it.
I'm not sure. He's trying to clear up some creep. Now he has time, but he's also been microing a Raven and a Widow Mine, it looks like. So, yep, that was, oh, man. At least one thing had to go wrong there. At least he cleans up the Overlord drop, but Serral at least gets the Banelings unloaded onto Marines. A lot of at least that happening, but what was really good was that Serral did clean up that main army. ByuN was paying attention to the wrong thing at the wrong time.
There's a little Widow Mine drop, one last mine, tried to fire, but Serral with a perfect pull, left one drone behind. And when the Widow Mine fired, he morphed the drone into a spore crawler, so that Widow Mine got absolutely nothing. Even the little things trying to save one drone, 8.5 minutes into the game. Need like 37 minerals, it may as well make the difference, you never know. ByuN still does have a lot of units, which I'm a bit surprised because it felt like he lost so much when Serral pounced on his army. There's a Widow Mine on top of this ramp, that gets a decent shot.
I was worried it was going to get much better. Serral again with that last second split. At least mitigates the damage. I'm with you. It looked like ByuN lost a lot, but I guess it was... I guess it just wasn't as much as we thought. And then he had plenty to work with behind it. He has the to combat shields, as it's only about 70% finished, but I don't think he's really looking for an actual engagement. Rather creep cleanup, trying to get some harassment. Serral again looking for his own. Imagine a drop over will come with this eventually. Oh, that would have minded. That was nice.
It's hard not to have a smile on your face when you watch these guys play. It's like, man, they're both so ridiculously good. This really is high-level Starcraft. As ByuN is trying to find little openings in the bottom left. Serral is doing all the correct things on the top right. They're hitting their transitions. The only thing that we can sometimes say about ByuN is that he does get a little stuck on the Marine Marauder, and then whether it's tanks or Widow Mines, right? He's not exactly quick when it comes to transitioning into a whole bunch of goals or adding those Liberators with advanced ballistics, but yeah, most of the time he's already won the game at that point as he finds a couple of banelings that were not done morphing yet. We do have a fight unfolding on the top side of the map as well. Banelings coming in from every angle. ByuN saves a couple of Marines in the end, but yeah, the bottom went decent for ByuN, but the top side was heavily in favor of Serral.
Yeah, not expecting this around, then kind of using his boost awkwardly, so it didn't really boost out so much, but at least his supply stays steady. And he is adding on that Ghost Academy, so we could see, I think that might have been one of 2 pushes that he does, and it was a split push, on either side, but otherwise we might actually start talking about the defensive late game. Losing 3 tanks like this, definitely not good. Not the end of the world, as he should be able to defend if Serral does continue pushing in, but that's something that Serral might feel now more confident to do. Anti-armor missile might be looking for that Raven if he's actually still controlling it. Or even interference matrix, actually, which we don't ever get to talk about in this matchup, but it does work on Vipers.
Yeah, that is indeed not an interaction I've seen yet. But I'd love to see it, Zumgrok. I'd love to see this being a first where 3 Vipers just show up and they get interference matrix or one of them goes down. And then all of a sudden all the tanks do keep firing. It is hard to engage off creep, but I think that Serral's, I want to say, somewhat okay with ByuN being on 4 bases because he can't really do much about it. But I think the moment that ByuN is going to split himself thin over 5, I think that's maybe where Serral should start looking for some openings and apply the pressure with his lurkers.
I'd say with 5 extra command centers on the production tab, ByuN is thinking about that turtle defensive game. That seems to be a good signifier, which means that Serral doesn't have to worry so much about big pushes. A couple drops here and there perhaps, but more so the code is, he's trying to crack Terran's defenses, which we'll see if he can. A little bit of a hit squad of lurkers and banelings already causing a ruckus, and then here comes the rest of the army, but also for ByuN as well. Blinding Cloud almost pushing the bio into the banelings. Was a little awkward, but ByuN pulls them back in time, and now only has hydras and lurkers to deal with, which he might be able to chase after. There was an interference matrix. Love it.
Yeah. Which also means that Serral leaves that fight with a full energy Viper, so you can always try about going again. But yeah, there we have it. You mentioned it. Interference matrix on Vipers. 14 minutes into the game. Look at that production tab of Serral. 35 banelings on the way. 30 more Zerglings. And obviously a couple of kills right on command centers there. One of the command centers tried to become a planetary, went down, and one of the other ones did not get cancelled. I love the timing of Serral, and I think that's really what this is all going to come down to. He's like, all right, 4 bases. Can't do much about it. I don't want to run into your defensive setup, but if you plan on going up to 5, that's where I'm going to try to stop you.
Yeah, we've seen some Terrans really try the style and try and just weather the storm, hope that the Zerg player runs out of steam, but actually, to be honest, of the 5 or 6 times that I've seen this against multiple TVZs, I haven't seen the Terran win quite yet. Perhaps ByuN can change that, but this is not going to look so good. Even with a couple of splits off of creep, there's just not a lot of splash damage, there's no splash damage whatsoever. So it's all about the splits, it's all about the concave, which ByuN is doing a pretty damn good job with. The what is left over after this, Serral actually down to just hydras. He is going to be pounced upon, he is going to be pushed back. ByuN dipped a little bit down in that supply, but I mean, that was scary without any tanks involved, and he still managed just to hold. It's, still a workable position for ByuN, but I just don't see how he gets more bases up, man. Serral's not letting him.
Nope. If ByuN wants to get this base at 3 o'clock, that's possible, but then he's going to lose that bottom base over and over again. Serral's going for it again. Blinding Clouds, there is a lot of tanks to run into, Serral. It's hard to believe that this is a good fight for him. The lurkers barely even participated, and that was a pretty pricey engagement, if you ask me. Yeah,
that was exactly what ByuN would hope for, and then he wants that to happen multiple times while he's on 5 bases. The problem is that was one of however many engagements have happened, and he is not on 5 bases. He's struggling to actually be on 4.
I do like what you said, and I feel that ByuN is doing that too. He's like, you know what, I cannot possibly defend the bottom side of the map and the top right, so let's just focus on the top right. There are more resources to get anyway. But Serral is going for the only place where I feel there might be a little bit of weakness, and that is the natural. And you still gotta respect that, because you don't want lurkers in your main base. A couple of goals getting blown up here, and the tanks are keeping this somewhat safe, and even just 1 or 2 lurkers showing up in the natural is annoying. And at the same time, Serral is ready to strike at the top right. I don't know if you really want to go this deep off 3, but the banelings are rolling forward. Not the greatest fight for Serral. Sure, he's got money in the bank, but he should have killed the orbital that's floating there. He had the hydras, he absolutely could have taken it out. I think engaging into that many tanks is not the right idea. Because one thing we didn't mention yet, but this is a classic, is Serral's done a great job at killing SCVs over and over and over again. but he's maxed out on 89 drones. Well, ByuN, yeah, he's sitting at 31 workers, which is devastating, but his army is already bigger and could become even bigger than it currently is. He's got a 128 army supply Terran force.
He could have 60 more army supply than his opponent when they're both maxed out. That is considerable, but it's something that Serral is going to have to take into account eventually. Right now, he knows he has the map. He knows that he has avenues of attacks that ByuN can't really, deal with and then also push against, which is this run by into the natural. I mentioned it, that if it happens, it kind of just sucks. You have to deal with it, but that is one thing that ByuN's going to have to somehow figure out, either to deal with it or just literally transport his production elsewhere, because he can't defend both sides of this defensive bases against what Serral is doing. Blinding Cloud's going down. Banelings are rolling single file into Bio, which doesn't work out too well. But I think Serral is okay with these trades. Even as he loses Hydras on the retreat, I mean, he still has so much of a bank. He still has so much production.
I would have liked to see Serral use a couple of banelings to get into the main base there, though. Like, it was very doable, and it feels getting on top of all that production, that'd be super annoying for ByuN. Imagine if you're ByuN and you have to repair, or you have to move all your units, and that makes the top right very vulnerable, or you have to rebuild all your barracks, depots, and all that kind of stuff. That'd be super annoying. We do have a double drop landing in the base. ByuN's like, hey, that was mine once upon a time. And Serral's like, yep, but now it's mine. I mean, at least ByuN has that base in the top right, but you'd feel that he can't possibly keep this up, right?
You wouldn't think so. I mean, Serral, as I was saying, he kind of learned from that series that going into Broodlords is an option. And I think this is an okay option right now. It takes out the tanks. It forces them to basically be pushed back while they try and get a better engagement. But there's a chance that ByuN figures it out, sees it coming, and actually does have appropriate measures. And that is to say that he has his Ghost primed and ready for snipes. That's the way that he can deal with Broodlords. And if he can't do that, then the Broodlords will push him off the two bases that he's mining. The only two bases that he's mining. Maybe a third and a second. So the Broodlords can definitely be a ticket into actually killing your opponent. Otherwise, it starts feeling a little bit difficult. The Zerg gets a little bit frustrated. That's how you start throwing away games. Maybe the Broodlords can do it for you. Where are they even morphing in? I think they're already flying over to the upper right. They are indeed.
Yeah, I'm always a bit scared when I see Broodlords, because I do think it's a correct decision, but the ghost count is so high, and I've seen a couple of POPs in my life where all of a sudden the Broodlord army can disappear. ByuN throws down the scan, so he knows what he's going up against. The ghosts are taking position, but the Vipers and Banelings are here to keep these Broodlords safe. More snipes going down, and a couple of Broodlords pop immediately, but the tanks cannot take care of the ridiculous amount of Banelings. But, I mean, now most Banes are gone.
Well,
Ghosts are still going strong, and there we go. A couple of snipes do go down. This was a big loss for Serral as he gets completely cleaned up. My goodness, what a fight by ByuN.
I mean, I can't begin to explain how many other Terrans would have totally messed that up. I mean, I want to use a stronger word than that, but I shouldn't. But, like, it's, like, so easy. Because the tanks fire on top of your own ghosts. And so they're also canceling the ghost snipes on top of Broodlords trying to reach them, on top of the Banelings trying to roll into them. So it's a question of whether you even get the snipes off. And another question is whether or not your ghosts even live, since they naturally kind of clump up when they go for those snipes. And ByuN was just able to control his army really well, cancel and restart snipes when necessary, and then have his tanks actually focus fire on top of those Banelings, which I guess was a bit easier than normal because there's so many Banelings, funnily enough, but obviously still difficult to do. Serral just goes for round 2, though. This time, pure Ling Baneling. No Broodlords necessary. He's just going to go in for it. Is there enough splash damage to take this out? There's 3 more tanks ready. 4 more tanks, actually, going to try and hold on. The Orbital can't really help out very much, but the Swarm is truly here, and ByuN has no choice but to just micro against it. 1 unit for every Baneling. Unfortunately, ByuN is going to be pushed back and off of that base. I mean, his army supply is still fine, but Serral just remaxes, right?
Yeah, but even Serral is starting to run a little lower now. A couple of Zerglings are going to try to pick up all the mules that have just been dropped in the top right, and that is a sweet little run by there with Serral. I still feel that Serral missed an opportunity when he really had a free entrance basically into the main base. There were 2 Marines guarding the main. He didn't do it. I think if he would have taken out the production facilities, this game would have been close to over. Now it's still going fine, but Serral has to be very, very careful, because ByuN's army is bigger at this point. And look at the gas. Like, Serral's army is 750 gas. ByuN's army is worth 3k gas. So ByuN simply doesn't have a bigger army, also has a better army. Even if he has only 5 SCVs. I'm a little worried, Zombie Grub. It feels that, sure, Serral is close to getting the job done. But if he takes another bad fight, this game could actually slip away.
It is amazing how much ByuN is holding on here. That Broodlord move, at the very least, is supposed to open up the opportunity to crash in with mass banelings, because they don't have any tanks left over. They've killed each other or just, unsieged and died to other things. But 4 tanks was just enough on top of the splitting off of creep with ByuN's superior army supply to begin with, as we were talking about minutes earlier. It's made some magic happen here. It's given us some hope for ByuN to actually win this game. Plus, he was dropping an actually kind of important base at the bottom that's only now being rebuilt. That infestor looking for the shark attack on top of those ghosts. The almost going down. Might still be saved. It is.
Well, you can't repair it from there, so you're gonna have to fly it away.
Move it. Okay, he's not moving it. I'm a little worried. The infestor is waiting very patiently.
The queens want the orbiter. Now the ghosts are gonna snipe the queens instead. Big bongo on all the ghosts. Serral is gonna go for it. This fight needs to work out. The infestor on burrows lands the bongo. Lurk is sieging up on top of this Terran army, and has Serral finally done it? Does he have enough banelings here? Well, even if it's not the banelings, it's definitely still the lurkers. ByuN, it feels like he is truly running out of steam at this point. A couple of ghosts remaining, but that is not going to do it. Anyway, let's talk about Oxide, as Serral is dropping a roach horn.
But ByuN is dropping a tank. Drop a tank, but he's getting one, and if he keeps it at home, then that's already a pretty damn good defense. So I'm not sure what ByuN's planning on doing with this tank. He could try and do a push drop with it. That was a thing like years and years ago. But if he's just getting this because he has a feeling that Serral might do something on Oxide, well, then he's being a genius right now, because Serral is doing something.
Yep, making a couple of links. I mean, it could also be a macro-oriented style, right? Maybe Serral just feels that he wants to get access to a roach one in case ByuN does some sort of a hellbat push, which plenty of Korean Terrans have done against Serral over the last year. So maybe it's a kind of a safety roach worm, but as we say that, it's 4 roaches. But now we go back into droning again.
Well, he also started up drones when he saw the tank, I think with the Overlord. I think he barely saw it, or he saw the factory was still in a tech lab, or something along those lines. So I think this might... You could be right. This also could have been... The timing's very narrow, that it also could have been something where he's gotten in some inspiration from Dark and just throws down a 330 roach horn, because he is going to go into roaches, or he is thinking about the defense. But either way, it is going to be a little bit of a tank push. Okay, all right. So this existed on a map like 2 or 3 years ago, and I liked it when it first showed up, and then I quickly disliked it because just like a bunch of lings would take care of it. But as long as you're willing to find a really clever position and you're willing to escape on a moment's notice, I don't mind it.
There's a couple of Ravagers that will drop their first crossbows. This tank is gonna get picked off. Serral is judging the situation correctly, and ByuN just lets it die. At the same time, a couple of Marines are being unloaded on top of Zerglings on the left side. Whatever ByuN was hoping for definitely did not work out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think already having a couple of Ravagers was not what ByuN was thinking Serral was going to have, but then it looked like he was trying to micro his Marines one at a time, so he just really was being distracted, not paying attention to a much more valuable unit. Now he has an idea of what Serral's doing, though. When you see the roaches, you got to take into account this could be like roaches, 1-1, or fast infestation pit, something along those lines. And that's something that ByuN's harassment is going to be looking for, but he won't let up on a harassment because he's ByuN. So the drop's still going to continue. Liberator barely survives. There is a 1-1 on the way, so continued committal from Serral on those roaches.
I'd love to see ByuN leave one of his tanks in his natural, right? On the high ground on the natural. I think it's very likely that a tank like that is able to get a lot of good shots off. ByuN is not doing that. He's also sending his second tank to the low ground. ByuN doesn't really see it yet. Now he sees the units on the left. He's going to stim forward. But ByuN, that is a lot of Zerg units. He pops 2 Ravagers, 3 Ravagers. And now finally the Queen's Transfuse. A little bit late there by Serral on the Transfuse. Well done by Serral, but also a risky move, I guess, by ByuN.
Holding his position is kind of risky. There's 2 tanks, but there's enough Ravagers to file both of them down. The Marines can only cover them for so long. They do have to stand their ground to actually try to cover these tanks, but then they're also dying as they stand their ground. A 3rd tank gets misrallied into here, and ByuN, I mean, just seemingly didn't... I mean, maybe just didn't respect this enough. He seemed to have seen it coming, often enough that he would actually be afraid of it, but didn't respect it. He's going to be holed up in his natural for a while, losing access to his armory, and I'm pretty sure he's going to lose this game.
This is why I would have loved to see one tank in the high ground here on the natural, or even there where it currently is in the main base. So he's going to run forward and drop a couple of crossbows on that tank too. And now all that's left is Marines, and it's only 6 of them. That is simply not enough. GG.
Well, ByuN is going for a Hellbat build, it looks like, as soon as he has 100 gas. I mean, if he goes for a drop and just a little bit of Hellion run-by action, that also could do some damage. Actually, yeah, the armory's too late, so it's not going to be an armory build. He has already added on the tech lab here. He's going to produce more Hellion, sure. But even if it was, I guess, the armory, the Overlord's coming in. Serral's not taking anything for granted, and that is going to confirm that is harassment. The Hellion's go in one place, the Medivac goes in another, but nothing that could actually straight up kill Serral.
Serral runs a happy Zergling into the natural, but at least that keeps these Hellions at home a little bit longer. Not expecting Serral to take too much damage. I think ByuN is hoping to pick up the random Overlord with these kinds of openings, like we kind of saw Maru do too in his series against Elazer, but that Overlord is untouchable. Most Overlords seem to be in a pretty safe spot. Maybe the one that's revealing the Hellions now is the one that the Marines could go for. That is quite a few Hellions. Something that could have been a bit scary for Serral. Yeah, with Overlord speed, it's very hard to take him out with slow Marines.
Right, yeah. This is not doing a whole lot, as Serral is really judging it quite appropriately. Since his Overlord drop confirms, again, no armory, he can just, you know, he built a baneling nest, sure, for maybe a bit of safety in case it came down a bit later, something like that, but he doesn't overcommit to lings. He doesn't make 7 banelings, he makes just 3. And it seems to be just more so about keeping tabs on ByuN's army and fitting in drones whenever he can, which is doing quite well. Even these Hellions might have gotten a couple of good shots. They're actually going to risk their lives to engage. He's looking towards the future now, protecting the 3rd CC, just playing the macro game, but I'm not sure that's what ByuN wanted from the opener.
It did feel that Serral really defended with the absolute bare minimum, which you can technically say is the way you want to play Starcraft, but I think if ByuN would have truly sent it once or twice, I actually think there's a good chance he would have found quite a bit of damage. Maybe now the aliens know that the queens are a little bit out of position, but yeah. A couple extra creep tumors make this a little bit more awkward. Baneling getting a good connection there. Does a lot of damage to one Hellion and completely picks off the other. Serral has played a, like I said, absolute bare minimum kind of defense, but he's getting away with it. If you look at the work account now, it's like, yep, that's definitely where you want to be if you're a Zerg. Up 18 workers, double Evo is now up and running. And ByuN has a couple of slow Marines trying to get a cancel on this hatchery, but slow Marines just don't deal enough damage.
No. Yeah, right. Actually, this game is looking more like that first one where they're both on top of everything. The Hellions out with a Ling run by earlier on. The banelings not quite getting in as the SCVs clocks down one SCV. One of them gets in, sure, but not enough to kill the SCVs. And he even cancels the supply depot that fully walled off. That's, again, the very small things. And now he walls off correctly with another supply depot. 4th command center over halfway done. Upgrades pretty darn even for both players. Serral is investing in burrow. And I would love to see a couple burrowed banelings on the offensive ramps, like on ByuN's side of the map, if you can kind of sneak them in there.
I think one difference between this one and Lightshade is that I feel that ByuN is doing a much better job in containing the creep. And overall, Serral feels a little more poor to me. Like, I don't know if he actually has less workers or not, but it just felt that Lightshade, he could truly do whatever the hell he wanted, and it felt that creep was just exploding in every angle. I think ByuN is doing a very good job in this game in pushing it back.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think maybe Serral was up to 80 drones as well in the first game, so you might be right about that too. 4th base is going to run into a couple of Hydras, but there's plenty to defend, as well as ByuN engaging on the creep to the bottom. Actually took down, I think, a couple of queens. Those are the creep spinning queens, so that is important. He's going to micro against the banelings as much as possible, and then get the heck out of there.
I gotta say, this is a little bit risky, I think, by ByuN, because that's not his entire army, and Serral could technically pounce on that with his entire army. You look at the minimap, the Zergling count is very high. We have 80 lings out on the map, and he's morphing 17 banelings on top of the 26 he already has. The tanks just kind of went by the burrowed banelings, but that's not the moment you want to use your burrowed banelings.
Not so much, no. Serral was eager to replace that spawning pool in case it went down, but it didn't. So Adrenal Glands is going to finish, and now he has a backup spawning pool. He's looking for some good blinding clouds. One Viper gets sniped immediately, but one blinding cloud still goes down in the front line tanks. That means that 6 are still firing. Can't really push into that too well.
Burrow some banelings. Laser always.
He did?
Yeah. Ooh, he did. It's so hard to see that, right? I never see it.
Oh, yeah, definitely not when I'm like actually paying attention to the fight. This is just it's a ticking time baneling bomb. Like it's something is gonna hit, man. He's got most of the ramps covered. He is missing the middle left ramp. But yeah, that one, but that could be fixed soon. Not that this game is going to be all about the burrowed banelings. At this point, ByuN's also building extra command centers. He's getting ghosts, getting more tanks. Like, one burrowed baneling strike isn't going to end the game. Or even really interrupt ByuN's, oh, wow, good scan. So now he knows about them. But anyways, it's not going to mess up his momentum, but it still would be a nice use of them. Now ByuN's aware that he should be scanning every time he moves out.
That hive was still a little bit low on HP, but Serral is aware of that, so he's bringing all the Zerglings home immediately. And he is going to be able to keep that hive alive. Well done by Serral.
He even starts another layer. Like, he is so aware of ByuN's potential eagerness, I suppose, to snipe a building in that main. So he'll have a backup layer at the very least to work with. He's been researching his lurker upgrades, and we should soon see more than one lurker made. Currently just one, as Serral is almost maxed out. He's looking to engage to find something here. Sensor tower, supply depots, maybe a command center.
The missile turret is about to reveal the banelings on the left side.
Oh no. Oh.
Oof. I was like, well, good thing I built a missile turret over here. I mean, how do you run into this if you're Serral? But we've seen this before. Serral is okay with Terran players being on 4 bases, knowing that he can't do much about it if it's off creep. But we'll see how this game plays out when ByuN goes up to 5, and that seems to be happening at this very moment. That maybe opens the opportunity for Serral. But I like the defensive. ByuN has way more tanks this time. He's got 19 tanks, Zombie Grub. 19.
There haven't been as many engagements, I think. Plus, that first game, he did lose 3 of them on a bad retreat. So he's definitely looking better there. 2 of them aren't siege, but so many more are. And Serral is still going to go for it. I don't see any blinding clouds going down, or if they did, they're already gone. The banelings roll past the tanks into the planetary. Bop that and get 18 SCVs, but at the same time, Serral is going to be losing 1 base, a couple of drones, maybe even 2, because he just lost his army, and it has to retreat from across the map.
Look at the production tab. 100 Zerglings being produced at once. You don't see that very often. The triple-digit Zergling reinforce. It's going to remax Serral immediately. How many tanks do we have on the right side? It's only 4. This could be a moment for Serral to maybe go for it, because most of the ghosts and tanks are all on the left side, and Serral is just going to go for it immediately. He sees the amount of tanks. He's like, 4, I think I can do it, and that's not a planetary fortress yet. So that means that ByuN can still lift it up, but there are a couple Hydras pushing out some damage on it too. And Serral, it feels like there is no opportunity, but he still sees one and he kind of finds it.
That is one of the biggest weaknesses of this style of play, or just in general, you know, tank-based splash damage, is that lings are going to do very well against them. Unfortunately, it's a bit much to ask to go for both tanks and Widow Mines and any amount of bio, so you don't really see that combination. But if your bio's not there to protect your tanks, those lings are going to get really good value, and those things are starting to look a little bit more worrying. ByuN is able to save a base, and he quickly replaces this 4th, but it's not a planetary. So he's once again hoping that his tank numbers are just intimidating enough. Right in a creep as the army is waiting on the right side to pick up pretty quickly.
Serral could drop a couple of blinding clouds or even go for the abducts. It doesn't really matter. Zerglings will go for the tanks. Get the Hydras finish off the command center this time. Oh, Parasitic Bomb would have been pretty good there, as there was a lot of bio in those matter effects. At the same time, I saw something blue. I was like, are those lurkers behind the middle line at the top? No. It's an Overlord dropping creep.
Yeah, not so bad. It's not too much. But ByuN really needs a 5th base here. So if he can't get the right side, then maybe he can try pushing all the over to the left. Because at least the left, if one gets taken, maybe the other base could get taken. Not quite the same way that the right side would work out. But we are, again, kind of to that point of Lightshade where it's like, well, ByuN's not getting really these great engagements. He's not taking much of the map, whereas Serral definitely is. Is he once again going to run out of steam? Or can something change? And what is that change?
about to find out. The ghost count is definitely getting there. We've got 8 ghosts, and the tank count is currently still at 13. So it's not as many as we had before. And be honest, like, you know what? If I can take the right side, I'm gonna try to take this one, the center left, which is very funny because Serral is already expanding in the top left.
Words, and he doesn't have Thors and Vikings. It's all about the snipes. Can he actually get them?
Zombie crop. This is actually kind of sad for ByuN because he scanned. He saw the Hydras and Banes on the right side, but now the ghosts are a bit out of position, and the ghosts need to be here where the Broodlords are. Fortunately, he didn't send them all the way to the right, so the ghosts will be able to rejoin this party. Do we have any infestors on the ground? Yeah, we do. Good land a fungal. EMP do not have the enhanced shockwaves yet, so it's a bit harder to land a good EMP, but he does get the queens. You don't get the spellcasters yet.
This is going to be tough for both sides, really. I mean, the Broodlord micro is kind of funny, but he's trying to. ByuN's going to push forward, but yeah, if he gets fungled, I mean, if his tanks are firing against his own army, it's going to be quite dangerous, but we'll see if he can do it. He wants a layer to protect his ghosts and then hopefully not get fungled as well, so his snipes can actually go down. He's going to get none. I think he was forced to cancel there as he realized the danger of it.
I love the offensive spore crawlers here, making it a bit harder for these medevacs and liberators to come closer. Serral does still have a couple of fungals to work with. Wants to get shots up. Now we get a couple of abducts instead, and it's going to allow these Broodlords to push back or push in even further, and 2 tanks go down immediately. Well, should ByuN just try to hold his ground and fight and hope that he can land the snipes that he's looking for?
Tanks actually doing so much damage in that command center. The Spore Crawler's barely not grabbing that command center. A fungal, though, grabs a handful of units, denies 3 ghosts their chance for the snipes. I mean, ByuN, he really wants, he has so many ghosts. Like, when the snipes, if they ever could occur without being interrupted, would be devastating. They can't happen. There's so many things fighting against him, and Serral's not making the same mistake that he did last time. In fact, in this, I feel like in this particular case, the Broodlords now make ByuN's choke work against him, where at least on Lightshade he's able to pull back, fan out, and get some good shots. It's not happening here, and it seems like a slow death. ByuN gonna try and finally push through, but there's a couple more infestors, a couple more fungals. Only 1 ghost on fungal. Now he's gonna run back to more, but here come the banelings, and there's only 1 tank alive, and it's quickly out of range. He's forced to entirely retreat. I mean, he still has an army to work with, but he lost his position, and he really needed those bases.
Yep. That means that the top left is in a lot of trouble too. It seems like ByuN is gonna let it die. ByuN does know that now Serral has taken the base that he was taking once upon a time. This truly is Lightshade all over. So this hatchery will obviously go down, but Serral is still rich, has still a lot of money in the bank, and on top of that still has an absolutely devastating army. I love, once again, the addition of the spores. It really does make these Broodlords feel a lot more safe. This time we do have the enhanced shockwaves, which we did not have before, so maybe it's a bit more doable for ByuN to land a good EMP and not just connect with the queens, but actually connect with the infestors and the vipers too. Pops the overseer, that's kind of nice.
I mean, anything at all, I suppose. He's got plenty of energy for now. Might change. Actually, he accidentally picks up 4 ghosts. Hopefully he realizes that. It's a very weak medevac too.
Uh-oh, these tanks are in trouble. This is beautiful Broodlord positioning, and yeah, this is nothing that ByuN can really do. He's gonna try to get this ghost in a position where, oh my goodness, the friendly fire is devastating.
Yeah, you might as well on siege. If you know they're doing this and you haven't taken damage beforehand, you could try to play out the Viking game, just make sure they're always in a concave. And you could even try to add in Thors to hopefully what is still a good tank count, but my god. That fungal with the tanks firing with the Marines too. I don't know how ByuN thinks he's going to combat this army, but more ghosts, more Marines won't be able to do it. He's trying to distract him a little bit with a single medevac drop. It's going to be quickly cleaned up, but I guess it is distracting. The EMPs go down, the snipes are going to hit. A couple of them do at the very least. Blinding Cloud actually doesn't affect the snipes themselves, so that's still going to actually go off, and ByuN finds something here.
Yeah, that's obviously a bit silly by Serral. He should not send pretty much his entire army to deal with 8 Marines. But now the Zerglings will still come to the rescue, and they get the wraparound on the Marines. It's so low on HP. Bongo is pretty much going to do it. 1 EMP does connect with the infestors. To be honest, he's really making the best of a very, very dire scenario. It seems like this is never going to be enough.
Doesn't seem that way. It doesn't seem like it. It seems like the Broodlord has found its place once again in this matchup after being so ignored that it seemed like Serral even forgot about it in their last best of 5. Now that he's got it, he's going to be able to tackle these late game scenarios, and ByuN just can't keep up. The last stand here as he runs his ghost back, but there's not enough tanks to actually cover against the banelings. The Brooders, I guess, clean up the rest of them anyways. So Serral is just making sure not to throw away too much, but he's got the map. He's literally got all the maps, all the bases that are available. Serral is mining from them. ByuN, even if he were to push out, wouldn't have anything to mine from. Oh,
ByuN
God.
knows it too. There's the Fongo. Here are the banelings. GG. Serral will win the upper bracket of TSL 6 with a 3-0 victory.